12:30. This week, Spotlight turns its attention to Lincoln's very own record company, Dead Good Records. The programme is introduced by Nick Brunger.
In pop music terms, perhaps the most notable thing about the mid-1970s was the emergence of punk rock music, with bands like the Sex Pistols, the Clash and the Buzzcocks. Their music was raw and experimental, and many people thought it unpleasant. The basic philosophy of the punks was do-it-yourself. They formed their own bands, wrote their own songs, managed their own careers, and, if they could, they brought out their own records, without any help from the major music companies like CBS and EMI. Well, now the punks have gone, long since replaced by music called the New Wave and then High Energy. But one thing they left behind them was a growing number of small record companies, independent of the music giants, who brought out their own records on their own record labels. It was a trend that started in London, with companies with names like Rough Trade and Small Wonder, and it soon spread throughout the country. And for the past 2 years, Lincoln's had a record company of its own. It's called Dead Good Records, and this disc, Nowhere Girl by the B Movie, is its latest release. Nowhere Girl from B Movie, a disc that's doing very well at the moment for Lincoln's Dead Good Records. The company was founded back in February 1979 by Andy Stevenson, who's now left Dead Good to run a record manufacturing business, and by Martin Patton, who now runs Dead Good.
I was in a band called Excess Energy, who was sort of doing a few gigs around Lincoln. We decided to make a record, the four of us, after seeking finance high and low everywhere. Eventually I asked my mother, convinced her that we could sell enough to get her money back, and we pressed 650. We sent them out to various of the independent wholesalers, which are mainly in London, and we shifted all those out, and it sold. We sent one to John Peel, who played it, quite a lot in fact, which obviously did the sales, probably was responsible for about 60-70% of sales. Anyway, we sold out of those. One of the blokes who I'd come into contact with while making this was Andy, who then became a partner, and talking to him we thought we could set up an independent label successfully. We thought we had enough knowledge, in inverted commas, and basically we just found an office, moved in, put a phone in, and thought the first release for us had to be my single. We had to re-release that. It was dead easy. Change the catalogue number, put it out on the Dead Good as the first release. That was Excess Energy's 18.
Over 18, the first single released by Dead Good Records.
This was the height of the independent boom for everybody, and it was all roses and we were just flying for, we couldn't believe it. We started looking around for a second release. We didn't really know where we were looking. We sort of local clubs, going out seeing things, and then one day Andy came in and had seen a poster on a wall just outside the office on High Street saying pseudo-existers stamp out normality, which meant nothing to any of us, but it was obviously something to do with music or something. I mean, picture of a band. So Andy sort of tracked them down and found them rehearsing in a basement on Lindham Hill, I think it was. Off he went one night after hearing this row coming out of the window. Went down there. Came out the next day, and I couldn't shut him up for hours. He was up and down. He was just going berserk, basically. So I went down to see him, and we thought, this is the right thing for number 2, and put that one out as a 33 RPM EP.
Made my commitments, to spend my remittance, the lock me away for a year and a day. Why can't we be? Why can't we be? No one else, I'm trying to be me. Be yourself, be yourself. Stuck in your time, stuck in your hell. Put your views straight, lay on yours, mate. Turn yourself, mate, you give the take. They're looking at you, no they're not, you're looking at you. It's all a lie, it's all a lie. Have some tea while you cry. Put your views straight, lay on yours, mate. Turn yourself, mate, you give the take. They reject me, mechanical man, killing me. Sedation bed, stuck to a bed, no longer needed, no longer querying. Put your views straight, lay on yours, mate. Turn yourself, mate, you give they take. Same old hours, working days, stifle manners, correct your ways. 9 to 5, along the line, no new way to spend my time. Put your views straight, lay on yours, mate. Turn yourself, mate, you give the take.
On that one, we had the biggest following we've ever actually had. I think we sold about 120 copies of the EP on the first day it was out. And we got a lot of requests from wholesalers in London. A lot more actual reorders as opposed to us. We were selling the first one to people. This happened, we got a lot more people coming back to us for it. And we got a strong reaction again off John Peel, which helped very much, so another sort of success.
And a success Dead Good Records has continued to be since they achieved their first notable sales with Pseudo-Existers. The arrival of Dead Good was welcomed by Studio Playground, a recording studio set up in Rugby by Andy Dransfield and Rick Walgar.
Well, we've been involved with Dead Good since they initially got the setup together. Martin had done some singles with his own band, Excess Energy, prior to that. And since then, they've been putting quite a lot of work through us with B-Movies, Sinking Ships, Cigarettes, quite a lot of local bands that they've handled as far as singles go.
Rick Walgar, who welcomes the existence of Dead Good Records, not just for the sake of his studio, but also for that of up-and-coming musicians in the county.
That, I think, is very important, because for the studio, we have a regular turnover from Dead Good. On a local basis, it's very important for the local bands, I think, because the local bands see the London companies, and there's a very big gap between Lincoln and London geographically. And consequently, I think you tend to get a little bit shy of London and London attitudes. And Dead Good is a very good bridging company between the two.
Strangely enough, Martin Patton doesn't really see Dead Good as a company for Lincoln musicians at all.
I see it as a record company that just happens to be in Lincoln, although all our bands are local at the moment. Now, I don't think, I am in Lincoln, it's going to be a Lincoln label, because I don't think there's not enough in Lincoln, for one thing, going on to keep it like that. We sell more records outside Lincoln in an individual place than we will in Lincoln on most releases.
Is it a disadvantage to you to be so far away from London, where after all most things happen in the music business?
Yes, I think so. It's nice in a way to be up here because you're not caught up and swamped down by everything else. In that respect, we can sit back and I think you can look at things more objectively. But then again, as you say, you're going to miss out a lot. We've noticed recently, we have been going down to London a lot recently, when you're down there, everything's on hand. You can, nip round and see these people and talk to them. And I think this is a lot more effective, going around to see people, the journalists in the papers, the producers for the radio shows, going around to see them and talk to them, because you can explain yourself more, and you get more involved like that. So I think it is a definite disadvantage, but I don't think it's a crucial one.
It might be useful to be based in London, the world centre of the music business, but Steve Taylor of Lincoln band The Cigarettes finds it useful having a record label so close to home.
It saves a lot of work in that we don't have to travel anywhere. We can just go down the road and see how things are going, and we can get involved in each release, which we do. And it's just so easy with having it down the road. There's no problems anywhere. We know Martin as a friend, as opposed to somebody who's putting our record out. So it's just really easy. There's just no problems.
Sleep at Night from The Cigarettes, the 10th disc released by Dead Good Records. And that sound set me wondering as to how a band got taken under the wing of Martin Patton, the man who's the force behind Dead Good.
Well, initially, if I see them live and I'm interested, I'll explain who I am, etc. So, I think we might be able to do something together. So then we talk. I see if they're interested in the first place. They might be involved with other people. But first of all, we start talking about that. If I've seen them live, I usually like to follow this up, say I'd like to come and see them a couple more times so I get used to the material more. It's very hard to pick out the right number off first hearing. So you go and see them a few more times. After that, you book a studio, find someone to design all the relevant bits for the package, the sleeve, the labels, etc. So we've got the labels, we put them in the studio, the sleeve sorted out. Once you've got your finished master from the studio, you go and get it cut. That's a cutting studio we use at the moment, the Music Centre in Wembley, London. From there it gets sent up to be whatever it is to be. They do something to it, turn it into metal plates. We do that in Leicester, and then you send the metal plates over to the pressing plant where they have positive and negative stampers, and they grow these stampers in which you actually press your record from, and you put the labels on while it's pressed and then sleeve it as they come out the press. Then we get them back here, sort of look at a pile of records and think we've got to sell them. And then we start literally phoning out people, explaining who they are, what they're about, saying, do you want some? Obviously by now we've built up a reputation where people will order a certain amount just because it's on Dead Good now. If I ring up someone, they'll say, "Oh, give me 200." And then, you hope that they're going to come back for more. And then you attack the papers, etc. for reviews, ringing up John Peel, what do you think, about plays, etc. And then going at it like that.
Stop
one of the bands that records on Dead Good's label, Sinking Ships and The Cinema Clock. Well, throughout the programme so far, when talk of promoting records has come up, we've heard one name mentioned time and time again, and that's John Peel, the Radio 1 disc jockey who's the guru of Dead Good's type of music. His is just about the only radio programme that plays this alternative type of music on a regular basis. So, how important is it to get a record played on his programme?
Very, yeah, very important. I think he holds a lot of weight on sales for every independent. You very rarely get crossovers into the mainstream of Radio 1 purely because the people don't hear the stuff. They have so much stuff plugged, and the reps from larger companies seeing them and coming around talking to them, that the poor old, Little Johnny's Band who Press 1,000, which might be an excellent record, isn't going to get heard because it just gets swamped up. So someone like John Peel, who does specialise, John Peel still plays major label stuff, but he specialises in, making a point of listening. He will go out of his way. And, he's very, very good. Obviously, we like him to play our stuff more, so would everybody else, but he is fair. He tries, I think, to just about get through at least one play of everything which you think ought to be played, which must be a monstrous task, thinking about everything he must get sent. But yeah, he is very important indeed.
That's a view shared by Radio 1's John Walters, for 11 years the producer of John Peel's programme.
Well, obviously it's very important to get airplay on the John Peel programme, particularly if you've got a small label, one of these little independent labels. That's largely because who else is going to play them? They're there to be played if people want to play them, but very often the Peel programme turns out to be the only place where these sort of little groups that make their own records are likely to get any exposure at all. I must be honest, it does put a certain onus on us working on the programme, something that we don't really want. Somebody did call and say, can you play this record? And we said, well, we'll listen to it and see if Peel likes it, then fine, there's a good chance of putting it in the programme. And they say, we've been offered a major contract if it gets on the Peel programme. And we've had people call and say, the local record shop will take 200 if it gets on the Peel programme. That's not some responsibility that we want, because we want to just judge the product by whether the record's good or whether it's bad.
And from Dead Good's point of view, what's it like if John Peel does decide that a record of theirs is bad?
Oh, horrible. It does feel horrible, but at the same time, you wouldn't have brought it out in the first place if you didn't believe it in yourself. So you have to, try and get through somewhere else. We have the WizKids EP, which I liked a lot. I know a lot of people up here didn't like it, but we all believed in it. John Peel didn't play it at all, anyway, but we sold a lot on export into America. We got it on a couple of playlists in America, on American, the university radios they have in the Bay Area. And it sold quite a few over there. Since then, that band in particular, proving that I thought they'd got something, we've since had a single released on Ovation Records, which are a much, much bigger label than we are, which is proof that they had something.
Sit back and read your Guardian till the mortgage rate goes up again. Is your wife in bed with someone else? Are your kids in a park being bothered by queers? Have you got your sex life in its leg? Can you afford the time? Stop and think. Maybe you're in love with pay as you earn. You can drop there now and never learn. Don't wanna be a rich man in the graveyard. Don't wanna taste the gravy where the meat's gone cold and hard. Don't wanna be a rich man in the graveyard. Or in the crematorium and money to burn.
That's Pay As You Earn, part of a 4-track EP released by the WizKids on Dead Good Records. So far, Martin's made the whole business of record producing seem relatively easy. You find a band, record them, put out a record, get John Peel to play it, and that's it. But it can't really be that easy.
It is tough, and we almost sort of put everything in on each release as we come up to it. We're still in that situation where if one record completely collapsed, we'd be in a big mess. You just keep going along and, fighting for every little bit as you can. We're lucky in that we've got very, very small overheads. There's only 2 of us, etc. So I think there's an advantage like that. But, yeah, it is tough. How profitable is it? Not very profitable, things tick over. You as I say, you know, everything is down to one release. Some we've lost a lot of money on, some we've made, you know, a lot of money on. It's up and down all the time. 6 months' time, maybe, you know, who knows? It's a very much a day-to-day thing.
So what is it that Dead Good need to begin to feel in a really secure position? Rick Walgar of Studio Playground.
They need a hit single, and they need a hit band, and I think they got to probably look further away from the alternative charts and the new wave thing, and probably go a little bit wider. They've got the bands, and I think the bands have got the material. I think it's just the way that they're putting the material across. It's a vicious circle of you need the money to branch out into bigger things, and a hit single would give them the finance that they would need.
Yeah, to be successful, to be recognised success, you have to have a hit of some sort, some degree. I don't think you need it to run along quite happily. I know independent labels that have never had a hit, who are very well respected and have some very good material, and will sell 30,000 of each release, which in fact is enough copies to chart if it was going through the right outlets. The problem with the charts in this country is that you have to be going through the right outlets to even get the sales, you know, marked up. I mean, I could sell 30,000 and it wouldn't register anywhere unless we were going through these right outlets. So I don't think it's a definite thing that to be successful you have to have a hit.
But what would happen if Martin got the chance to record a pop band with a good sales potential, like, say, the Nolan Sisters? Would he sign them up?
No, I wouldn't, for the simple reason you can't get involved with something that you don't like yourself. Because it's like, you know, if I ring up someone on the phone and they say, what's it like? No, I can't. I mean, I sit there and I say, well, I don't like it, but it's good. But I don't particularly, I've got to like it. I have to be involved in the whole thing, you know, because I get very excited myself about it, almost like a kid, you know. I'll go out and I'll play it all myself and I think this is great. But no, at our level, obviously we've got much bigger. I could see different departments and things like that. Then you're going to lose control. But at the moment, we're totally in control and we're doing all the work. You know, we're basically dealing with stuff we do like, yeah.
And one of the sounds that Martin Patton definitely likes at the moment is this one, the sound of B-movie.
B-movie we met through Studio Playground. They came totally independently, booked their own time, went in, recorded 2 tracks. Andy Dransfield, one of the engineers at the studio, said he thought they'd be very suitable. They're from Mansfield, they're local enough, and he thought they had 2 good tracks. So I went out there to listen to them. I thought they were very good. Then we started talking about doing a single with them, which we subsequently did. Sent that off, sold it, went out, and we sold about 2,000 of that, and it suddenly died. And then it went ages, and we couldn't understand it. And then they got a lot of interest through clubs like the Blitz and Billy's in London. It was starting to get played in these clubs, so we got sort of an upsurge again of reorders, which we couldn't fill. So we got them back in the studio, because we knew they had much stronger material. I wasn't that worried about not being able to get the first one pressed. again. And someone suggested putting a 12-inch single on one side and a 5-track B-side running at 33, sort of a single one side and an album on the other, which I haven't seen before. Doubtless someone has done it. And we put that out, and we've sold about 1,500 straight away. Before anybody's heard it, they'll take 1,500. John Peel got it. I've heard he's raving about it. He's played it about 3 times last week. The first day he got it, I think he played the A-side, and he's featuring one track on his show every night, sort of this week, which is very nice.
And nice to know that Dead Good are really starting to do well with B-Movie's record, proving that Lincoln's own record label isn't dead, but very much alive. Dead Good Records.
Inside this world there's harmony, glamorous images I see. In this still life there's only light, and everything is how it should be. Oh, 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 rhythmical sounds in clarity. All I perceive is pure beauty. In this still life there's only light, and everything is how it should be. Whoa, whoa, close your eyes, let the tides wash over you. Close your eyes and move your body through the blue skies. Let's wander through the hidden doors. The key of dreams unlocks them all. In this still life there's only light, and everything is how it should be. Oh, oh, oh.